The $1 bill, the nation's capital, hidden messages from a society so secret, no one knows its true purpose. Who are these men who swear never to break their code of silence? The biggest names in history. Are they the masterminds of an age-old conspiracy, or just a brotherhood dedicated to helping mankind? National Geographic presents an unprecedented look inside the secret world of the Freemasons. Washington, D.C., capital city of the world's superpower. A city built to impress. A series of intersecting diagonals laid out on a grid. With each significant building carefully placed. It's also a city of symbols and secrets. But is there more to the design of Washington than meets the eye? The capital is the masterwork of a city planner, Frenchman Pierre L'Enfant, an old army buddy of George Washington. The first president played a key role in turning L'Enfant's visions into the reality that still can be seen today. At the time, Washington was not just the first president of the United States. He was also a brother in the clandestine fraternity known as the Freemasons.
There's a belief that built into that very strange city design, that there are secret symbols, that there are Masonic emblems hidden in there.
High-resolution satellite imaging provides a bird's-eye view of what may be hidden in the layout of the nation's capital. First, along the White House corridor, one of the Masons' most recognizable symbols, a compass. Then another symbol, the Masonic square emanating from Union Square. And even more intriguing, the pentagram. With its roots in pagan worship and ties to Satanism, can be traced throughout the major landmarks of Northwest Washington. The final point of the star, the White House. Compasses, squares, pentagrams. Is this just a coincidence? Or is it really a hidden message? A message left by the Freemasons.
Freemasonry is a fraternity. To join the fraternity of Freemasons is to enter in fraternal fellowship with like-minded men.
Freemasonry is also known as the craft. Its roots go back to the stonemason guilds of the Middle Ages. But by the late 17th and 18th centuries, it evolved into the gentlemen's club we know today. From the United Kingdom, the exclusively male Masonic Brotherhood spread to the continent and throughout the British colonies, including those in India and North America. There are currently more than 3 million Freemasons worldwide. Freemasonry is most prominent in the United States, with almost 2 million members.
Independency, now and forever.
It is one of the most significant moments in American history. The signing of the document that gave birth to a nation. Historical fact. 9 of the 55 signers of the Declaration of Independence were Freemasons. And as the nation would grow, so would the Masons. 15 of the 43 American presidents are also members of the fraternity.
Many people believe that the Freemasons are much more powerful than they are, that we were the force behind the founding of the United States, that we are the secret power behind the throne, that we have put our secret emblems on the dollar bill, that we are out to control the world.
Some claim the evidence of the Freemasons' influence is there for all of us to see. An all-seeing eye sits on top of an unfinished pyramid. The all-seeing eye is a pervasive Masonic symbol and can be seen in the Masons' buildings all over the world, from a ceiling in London, to a chair in Scotland, to a wall in Washington, D.C. To the Masons, it represents God's mastery of the universe.
Anti-Masons look at the eye in the triangle and say, this is Satan or Lucifer in control of a group of individuals that are going to do his bidding. That's why the eye in the triangle is over the Great Pyramid.
Secret codes, hidden meanings. They've always been a part of the Freemasons' history. But the Masons claim they're not a secret society at all. Rather, they are a society with secrets.
The fact that we have secret handshakes, the fact that we have passwords, the fact that our meetings are private is simply going to fuel the fires of their paranoia. Masons value secrecy as part of their tradition, and they're going to maintain it.
It is this insistence on secrecy that has placed the Freemasons at the center of some of history's most convoluted conspiracy theories. Some blame them for Jack the Ripper's murderous rampage. It's a chilly autumn night on a dark street in London. September 30th, 1888. For the second time that night, a victim, a woman, lies dead, disemboweled, her throat slashed. Police see this is no ordinary murder. It may be the work of the infamous Jack the Ripper. To this day, his murderous crime spree remains unsolved. But why? One clue might be in a cryptic message chalked onto a wall near the square where the fourth murder took place. The Jews are the men that will not be blamed for nothing. And what of the horrific way in which the body of Catherine Eddowes and other Ripper victims was mutilated? Some say clues to this mystery lead straight to the Masons via the legend of Hiram Abiff. According to the Masons, Hiram Abiff was the master mason who held the secrets to the world's greatest structure, King Solomon's Temple. But his knowledge would cost him his life. Three fellow craftsmen confront Hiram and demand to know his secrets in order to become master masons. Hiram refuses to betray his sacred trust. The craftsmen attack him. One cuts Hiram's throat with a rule. Another stabs him in the heart with a square, and the third delivers the fatal blow with a setting maul. The killers' names are Jubala, Jubilo, and Jubilum. Could they be the Jews referred to at the Ripper murder scene? What happens next to the murderers is yet another tantalizing clue in the Ripper case. According to Masonic legend, after King Solomon ties the 3 Jews to Hiram's murder, he orders the 3 ritually killed, their throats cut, their internal organs removed. And that has led some straight to the Ripper case. The Ripper mutilated his victims in a similar fashion, and some believe the strange message left behind at the murder scene refers to Hiram's killers, Jubala, Jubilo, and Jubilum. What's more, this strange clue was ordered erased by London's top police official, Sir Charles Warren. Warren wasn't just the chief of police, he was also a member of the craft, a Mason. But the Masons deny any connection to the Ripper's crimes. They say they've never used the term Jews in any of their ceremonies. And Sir Charles Warren may have had a very good reason for having the Ripper's alleged message erased. He may have been trying to prevent an outbreak of mob violence directed against London's Jewish population. Whatever the explanation, the legend of Hiram Abiff is an intrinsic part of one of Freemasonry's most solemn ceremonies. The raising of a fellow to a Master Mason, also known as the Third Degree. Rumors and conspiracy theories have swirled around the Freemasons for centuries. But why? What is it about this group of men that attracts such negative attention? Just who are the Freemasons? Although their legends trace their lineage back to biblical times, the real history of the Freemasons begins with the operative stonemasons of the Middle Ages, the builders of the great cathedrals and castles of Europe.
Early operative Masons had a capability of producing something that the average man could not produce.
Being able to calculate things and have them work out at the other end in concrete reality seemed to be a magical operation. And the person who could perform such operations was regarded as a magician.
The stonemasons jealously guarded the secrets of their trade. They developed secret handshakes and passwords in order to identify a fellow member of their craft. Then, during the Enlightenment, a major change. Wealthy aristocrats were allowed to join the guilds. They did not work in stone. They were called accepted or speculative Masons. The gentlemen were attracted not just by the secrets and practical knowledge the stonemasons had, but also by the opportunity to fraternize, to meet in an exclusive club.
By the time you get to the early 1700s, it's no longer a labor union, it is a gentleman's club. Something happened. You see the train enter the tunnel, and it's painted red. And when it comes out of the tunnel, it's painted green. And somewhere in the tunnel, someone painted it. And we don't know who was in the tunnel, and we don't know why they chose to paint it. That's sort of what happened with Freemasonry.
1717 was a landmark year for the Freemasons. they established the United Grand Lodge of England, which had authority over all lodges in England, as well as the right to charter or create any new lodges. To go along with this new central authority, the Grand Lodge decided that it needed to formalize the rites, rituals, and history of the Freemasons. The Masons chose James Anderson, a Scottish Presbyterian minister living in London, for the job. Anderson examined the existing documents and histories and codified them into a book called The Constitutions of the Freemasons. It was published in 1723. One of the rules laid out in Anderson's constitutions is that in order to become a Freemason, one must believe in God or a supreme being. But it did not spell out who or what God was. The constitutions also forbid political discussions in the lodge and required Masons to be good citizens. The two main branches of Freemasonry also developed during the 18th century. The Scottish Rite came from France, the York Rite from England. Both required Masons to go through 3 levels or degrees. A Mason's journey begins with the first degree, known as the Entered Apprentice. The next step is to become a Fellow Craft. And the final step is the Master Mason, also known as the 3rd degree. The Scottish Rite offers 33 additional degrees, while the York Rite only offers 10.
Each of the degrees conveys a different moral and ethical principle and obligates you to a different commitment within the craft.
The highest degree in the York Rite is known as the Masonic Order of the Knights Templar.
What distinguishes Knights Templarism from any other part of Freemasonry is that it is specifically a Christian organization. A man of any faith can join any part of Freemasonry except the Knights Templars. To be a Knights Templar, you need to be a professed Christian.
It's not the only link between the Freemasons and the Knights Templar. In 1736, Chevalier Andrew Michael Ramsay wrote a speech that caused quite a stir among the Freemasons. Ramsay's oration, as it is known, put forth the theory that the Freemasons were descended from the crusading knights of the Holy Land, not the medieval stoneworkers. Although Ramsay never mentions the Knights Templar by name in his oration. The Templars had a romantic and mysterious history, and some Freemasons were quick to jump to conclusions. This connection to the medieval Knights Templar, whether spurious or not, puts the Freemasons in the crosshairs of conspiracy theorists for years to come. The intricately carved walls of Roslin Chapel, a small church outside of Edinburgh, Scotland, may hold traces of the early Scottish Masons, known as the Cathedral of Codes. The carvings date back to the mid-15th century. Some images, a sword, a gravestone, may be evidence of the secretive and powerful Knights Templars' presence in Scotland as well. In Dan Brown's worldwide bestseller, The Da Vinci Code, the Knights Templar were at the center of the mystery surrounding the Holy Grail. The novel charts their journey from Solomon's Temple across Europe and eventually to Roslin Chapel. Historical records show the Templars' path to Scotland actually started in the Middle East. In 1118, a French nobleman, Hugh de Payenne, established the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon in order to protect pilgrims on the road to the Holy Land. Originally composed of just 9 knights, the Templars grew in power and prestige over the course of the next 2 centuries, establishing one of the first international banking systems. The Templars carefully kept the secrets of their order. They were suspected of conducting bizarre rites and initiation ceremonies. A number of European kings felt threatened by the Templars' wealth and influence, especially King Philippe IV of France. So on October 13th, 1307, King Philippe ordered the Templars disbanded. But the Templars may not have been completely destroyed. Some conspiracy theorists believe they may have found a safe haven in Scotland. Their secret rituals and initiations may have influenced the original Scottish stonemasons, who later in the 17th and 18th centuries evolved into the fraternity known as the Freemasons, or the craft as it is also known.
There certainly is reason today to think that perhaps the Knights Templar had some impact on Freemasonry simply because there are great similarities in their modes of operation. Their intent to keep part of their ritualism secret was certainly a characteristic of the Knights Templar.
In a potent mix of legend and history, the carvings at Rosslyn seem to speak to the presence of both the Templars and the Freemasons. And indeed, some members of the Sinclair family that built Rosslyn in the 15th century may have been Templar Knights.
I don't think anybody knows what Rosslyn Chapel was intended to signify. It seems to have drawn on the entire corpus of heterodox and esoteric teaching in a way that the builders themselves may not necessarily have understood. It is significant in that it incorporates a good many motifs that later appear in Masonry.
Gargoyles, angels, and mysterious symbols cover every available surface in Rosslyn. Images both pious and pagan in nature. At the opposite side of the church are these crouching angels, with their bent knees and hands over their hearts. Poses strikingly similar to ones that the Masons still use to this day in their rituals. In 1789, the French people rose up in revolt against King Louis XVI in the firestorm of the French Revolution. For the first time in history, the people seized the power from a sitting king.
The French Revolution was something different. It was bigger. It was hard to explain. It broke the rules. And those who were trying to understand it figured there must be someone or some small group of people who were behind it.
And suspicion landed squarely on the Freemasons. According to conspiracy theorists, the Masons were avenging the Knights Templar. Philippe IV had destroyed the French Templars in 1307, and now the Masons were lashing out against his descendant, Louis XVI. In 1797, a book called Memoirs Illustrating the History of Jacobinism was published by Abbé Baruel, a French priest.
Baruel propagated the charge, the accusation, that the revolution had been orchestrated by Freemasonry to topple the church. Burwell became the launch pad, the soil in which virtually all subsequent anti-Masonic conspiracy theories were rooted.
Despite Abbe Burwell's assertions, there are very few scholars who believe the Freemasons were really responsible for the revolution.
I have no doubt that some Freemasons participated in the French Revolution. It was a massive event. Many people were part of it. But to ascribe to the Freemasons a plan, a set of goals that the French Revolution was part of, is a preposterous idea. No one controlled this. It was something spontaneous.
But the revolution sparked a wave of paranoia and unease that some continue to feel today. The members of Naval Lodge No. 4, located in Washington, D.C., have gathered to offer a rare glimpse into one of the Masons' most treasured ceremonies: the installation of a new master. The Freemasons have performed ceremonies like these behind closed doors for centuries. And the tradition continues today. In the United States alone, there are approximately 2 million Master Masons. Conspiracy theorists in America are suspicious of the Masons' secrecy and their alleged power. It's been that way from the beginning, since even before the United States was established. The War of Independence in America sent shockwaves across the ocean. And once again, the Freemasons were seen by some as the force behind the cataclysmic changes.
I think the fact that there's so many Masons involved with the coming of the revolution is in some ways surprising. Masons are disproportionately involved with the revolution.
In schools across America, children learn the history of their country. But a part of that history is rarely, if ever, told. The Masonic connections of the Founding Fathers. American independence began with an event staged by men in disguise. Under the dark of night, the Boston Tea Party. On December 16, 1773, dozens of colonists boarded 3 British ships: the Dartmouth, the Beaver, and the Eleanor. 50 men split open 342 crates of tea with axes. And tossed the tea into the harbor. Earlier that night, the rebels had rendezvoused at the Green Dragon Tavern, the weekly meeting place for a Masonic lodge, the Lodge of St. Andrew.
There's a picture of the Green Dragon from that period, a hand-drawn picture from this period, which says, this is where we planned the Tea Party.
And so the theory is born. The Masons were creating chaos again. They planned and executed the Boston Tea Party. But did they? The Boston Tea Party may have involved some Masons, but it was staged by a radical group called the Sons of Liberty, not the Freemasons.
While many individual men who were Freemasons who participated in the Boston Tea Party, they did not gather together as Masons to do that. They are involved in other revolutionary organizations. So it's a cross membership.
The Freemasons' alleged involvement in the revolution does not end with the Tea Party. When the British arrived in force almost a year and a half later, a warning went out amongst the colonists, carried by Paul Revere. The man on horseback was also a Mason. He was not alone. George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, and John Hancock were also prominent Freemasons. Democratic ideals like those espoused by the Masons became enshrined in the U.S. Constitution.
At this point is appealing to, mostly to well-to-do cosmopolitan gentlemen, people who have some sense of the broader world, people who have some connection with the Enlightenment ideals of liberty and of equality. So it's not surprising that these people also tend to be the leaders in the political movement of the time.
But enemies of the craft have exaggerated or overemphasized the role of the Freemasons. They claim Freemasons wrote the Declaration of Independence. In truth, only 9 of the 55 who signed it were Masons. And its author, Thomas Jefferson, was not one of them. And when it comes to the U.S. Constitution, only 13 of the 39 who approved the document were or later became a Freemason.
Freemasons indeed were influential in the founding of our country. You can rattle off a list of Masonic revolutionaries, and it's a who's who. George Washington leads the list, Paul Revere, Benjamin Franklin, the Marquis de Lafayette. These were all Freemasons. So is Benedict Arnold. We don't make as big a deal about Benedict Arnold as we do about George Washington.
Freemasons certainly did have a major impact upon the creation of the United States of America. Freemasonry itself did not.
But what about the unfinished pyramid and all-seeing eye on the $1 bill? The image on the single is actually the Great Seal of the United States. The seal was originally designed by a committee that included Ben Franklin, a Mason. It may sound suspicious, but neither the eye nor the pyramid were Franklin's ideas. And Franklin never put the seal on the dollar bill. That happened in 1935 when President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a 32nd degree Mason, ordered the change. Still, the Freemasons deny there is any hidden message in the seal.
The all-seeing eye on the reverse side of that dollar and the top of that pyramid simply represents the all-seeing eye of God. And it's used by numerous organizations for that same purpose. It certainly is not a limited Masonic emblem.
Another suggested hidden code that speaks to the Mason's power is found just below the eye. According to some, Novus Ordo Seclorum means the New World Order, the Masonic World Order.
The Novus Ordo Seclorum. This is where the anti-Masons have a wonderful time. They'd like to tell us that this is the New World Order. They don't read Latin. If you're then translating, this is the New Order of the Ages. That's how you interpret it. This is a correct interpretation. And the New Order of the Ages was a Republican form of government. Now, we're not talking about Republicans and Democrats. We're talking about a representative form of government. Man takes charge of his government. We don't need a king. We don't need some priest or someone else telling us what to do. We can do it ourselves.
The list and the allegations go on, that the streets of the capital city are laid out in a certain pattern, to form the square and compasses, the emblem of the Freemasons. Some believe that a satanic pentagram was also incorporated into the city's design, that the Washington Monument is an Egyptian-style obelisk, a pagan-inspired icon. And when George Washington laid the foundation stone for the U.S. Capitol, he did it in full Masonic regalia. The first president did indeed wear a Masonic apron for the ceremony, but the Masons denied the allegations about their symbols being placed in Washington, D.C.'s layout.
You could probably go to any major city in the world and lay the square and compasses on the street maps of that city, and it would fit conveniently in some location.
They point to this inverted pentagram pointing to the White House and say, oh my gosh, this is a sign that the Masons and their satanic cabal have taken over the world. Well, if you look at the map, if you look at the street, it's not completed. I kind of wonder to myself, if the Masons are so all-powerful that they can stick this secret pentagon and pentagram into the layout, so how come they didn't complete it?
On the other hand, America has certainly been influenced by the presence of the Masons. If you've ever used the lines on the level, be square with someone, and give him the third degree, you have the Masons to thank. And every time a gavel strikes in a courtroom, you might be hearing a bit of Masonic tradition. The Pentagon, the Central Intelligence Agency, and the United Nations. Are these part of a military-industrial complex that helps defend and protect the nations of the free world? Or is it a nameless, secretive government, accountable to no one, initiated by Harry S. Truman? He wasn't just the 33rd President of the United States. He was also a 33rd degree Grand Master Mason.
If you view the ending of World War II with the atomic bomb and the United Nations as bad things, then obviously you would view Harry Truman as a bad person. And if you want to conclude that it was the Masonic influence, you certainly can. Of course, it could have been the Baptists that did it also. Harry Truman was a Baptist longer than he was a Mason, and so maybe it was the Baptists that were responsible for dropping the atomic bomb and the United Nations.
The claims against Truman form the basis of 20th and 21st century charges against the modern Masons. With membership centered around some of the most powerful names in the public eye: J. Edgar Hoover, Charles Lindbergh, Bob Dole, Arthur MacArthur, John J. Pershing, even Franklin D. Roosevelt. The guise of a secret Masonic power base gained credence. How else could so many Masonic brothers rise to such important positions in society? Rather than dispel the rumors, the Freemasons have maintained their veil of secrecy until now. In order to offer a clearer understanding of the craft, members of Naval Lodge No. 4 in Washington, D.C. opened their doors to National Geographic. They offered a rare glimpse into the inner workings and earliest traditions of their organization. The officers' installation ceremony.
And the installation ceremony is essentially to install the master of a lodge. All the office bearers are also installed into their various positions within the lodge. So it's really a big day for most Freemasons, and very pleasant and enjoyable too.
It all begins with a brief introduction by the Grand Master of Washington, D.C. The lodge's chaplain heads towards the altar, adorned with a Tanakh or Hebrew scriptures. a Quran, and a Bible, offering a testament to the spiritual diversity recognized by Masonry today.
Grand Architect of the universe, Thou God of all beings, of all worlds, and of all times, we pray.
The ceremony is riddled with ancient traditions dating back hundreds of years. The most elaborate and symbolic part of the service is the installation of the worshipful master, the head of a Masonic lodge. During this process, the worshipful master is given certain objects symbolizing the qualities he needs to lead the lodge.
The rule directs that we should punctually observe our duty, press forward in the path of virtue, and neither inclining to the right nor to the left. In all our actions have eternity in view. The line teaches the criterion of moral rectitude, to avoid dissimulation in conversation and action, and to direct our step to the path which leads to a glorious immortality.
Every officer installed is also given a jewel, which he wears around his neck, signifying his individual duty. For example, the senior warden is entrusted with the level, representing a sign to all Masons to meet on the level, without regard to social, political, or religious status.
The rituals are symbolic. Freemasonry is more about symbolism than it is about the physical world, because symbols are a real important connection to our consciousness. They know that looking at a symbol is going to give you more information internally than any amount of words that you can discuss or talk about. So they build mysteries around these symbols.
But the symbolism in Freemasonry stretches far beyond their ceremonies. Most Masonic lodges, regalia, and jewelry bear Freemasonry's most recognized symbol, the square and compass.
The square represents the square of virtue. All Masons should square their actions by the square of virtue. The compasses teach a Mason to circumscribe his passions, to draw a circle around his desires, to keep himself under control.
The G that is found in the middle of the square and compasses is a universal symbol in North America, but it's important to understand that it may not be found in all jurisdictions of the world. The letter G symbolizes God and also geometry.
Who are the Freemasons in the 21st century? They claim to be a fraternal organization, dedicated to taking good men and making them better. They also claim to be philanthropists, donating large sums of money to charity. But despite their good works, suspicions remain. Elaborate ceremonies, mysterious symbols, and ancient rituals only add fuel to the fire of conspiracy theories surrounding Freemasonry. Some conspiracy theorists even go so far as to say that Masons run the entire world.
I don't think that Freemasons run the world. I don't even think that Freemasons want to run the world.
Freemasonry certainly has never had any intent to become involved with a worldwide domination of civil society. We do hope that we can have some influence on the evolution of that civil society in a direction that promotes the rights of freedom and equality of mankind.
Although Freemasons deny the accusations, they do confess to keeping their share of secrets.
I think part of the allure of Freemasonry was the secrecy. I think it was benign secrecy. It was a secrecy back in the 17th and 18th century that was necessary in order to conduct open, liberal, secular discussions. We today associate secret groups with revolutionaries.
Freemasons and privacy is no different from virtually every other walk of life. Every family has its secrets that it wants to keep private. Every corporation has its boardroom secrets that it wants to keep private. Every government has secrets within the highest levels of the organization.
The Freemasons, however, just seem to be a lightning rod for negative attention. Their insistence on secrecy does not help their reputation. Could a nameless serial killer be identified as a Mason? Can the overthrow of a king, the founding of a nation, and the control over world economies all be the secret manipulations of Freemasonry? Whether conspiracy theory or dark secret, the absolute truth about the Freemasons may never be known.
I took a promise that I would not discuss it, that I would not tell anyone what the secrets are. Now, I don't care if you know what the secrets are. I mean, good heavens, if you're an intelligent person, you can find them in less than an hour's worth of work. But I'm not going to tell you, because as a matter of honor, I told you that I wouldn't.